For a couple years now, I've been looking for a box joint jig to quickly put together a box. Not really for the aesthetics, although a good box joint certainly has that quality. But more than anything, I wanted something simple that would require little clamping and would yield a strong result. Now, I've built and even paid for some of the more complicated jigs from some of the bigger YouTube creators, but while they offered impressive mechanics, they were neither simple or efficient in their design and did not store well. Then I found a relatively easy method where one attaches a board to a miter gauge fence and makes a series of cuts that rotates on a single pin. It was simple, effective, but I found it to be rather repetitive given that to make a single box, you'd have to flip 4 boards 2 times. That's a lot of cutting. I liked the idea but figured there was a better, more efficient way. What I found was not just more efficient, but it allowed storage of the jig to be really a non-issue. Here's the jig. Now I'll show you what I did. It's really important that you get this index piece that you'll be cutting to the right thickness of your table saw blade. Mine was about 3/32 of an inch, and the stock that I am using is 1/8 of an inch, which means I have to ground off about 1/32 of an inch. Now I'm using 2 here to balance each other out to have an equal grind on my sander. You might be able to get away with it with just using the 1, but it really works out better if you do 2. You'll want to sink the screws below that metal, so you're obviously not grinding it. And yes, that metal does get extremely hot, so you're going to want to rinse it off in the middle and try to cool it off as best as you can. You'll see it fits just right in that slot. This index that you're going to be creating is going to fit on a table saw sled. I'm pretty sure you could probably do it with any type. I'm just going to make a generic one right here, and it worked with mine, but you could probably do it with just about anything. There's no real trick to it. The real trick is that you're going to be cutting a slot next to the blade, and this will allow it something to slide into to give it that index. Now I've cut 5 pieces here, and I'm only gluing 4 of them right now. I like to make the cut in the center and make sure I've got that the exact middle before I put that 5th triangle on. And you probably don't need to use these triangles. I just like the idea of having that extra support when I'm cutting anything. It makes it feel stronger. Here I have a board that is slightly warped, and I'm just nailing this down with these straight support pieces here so that I can cut my slots and not have a problem. After this, I'll discard those boards completely. Here I'm finding the exact depth that I want to make that insert. And this is kind of an interesting thing that I'm doing here. There's 2 ways you can do this. I'm trying to space exactly how far over that blade needs to be from that other cut that I made. You can either just set it next to it, or you can kind of rig it to move over by measuring using your table saw fence and then moving it over a little bit at a time to get that. Just placing it by the blade though would probably work out fine. Now the biggest tip that I can give you for making a table saw sled like this is to constantly measure or constantly check to make sure everything is square. It should go without saying, but it is very important that you have that exactness. Otherwise, I mean, you might as well be using a bandsaw to crosscut. Now at this point I am clamping and gluing it, as you can see, but I did the runners right afterward, and I attached them and made sure that everything was running straight with the blade, that index and everything else. I found using a little WD-40 silicone on the slots there really helps make it move and slide really well. Now here I'm just kind of finding the slots, the slots, the table saw slots there to attach my runners, and I'm temporarily tapping these things in place. And here you can see I'm finally making that last glue. Now this is something that I was really afraid of it when I was doing this, was that that metal index would kind of pop out as I was using it and get stuck in that blade and then kick back, and you've got, you know, a piece of metal flying at you at a reasonably high speed. So I wanted to have it attach without being attached. Here I'm chamfering that metal piece so that it's easier for it to slide and lock and fall into place. Now this is important too. You want to find the exact height of your blade and then draw a line across there, as I'm doing, and mark it. And then you want to make sure that you can find exactly where that blade is going to come out on the other side. This is a safety device I put on mine. It's not absolutely necessary, but it is it's a good safety device. You can see that bar I attached to the back. It's got a couple some L brackets that I made. Now this is the same idea as I had on the actual sled, and that is to put a magnet up here, glue it in, and that'll attach that bar. And that's what I was talking about earlier, about making it easy to store it. I can use a table saw sled anytime I want, and that bar will stay up there and I won't have to worry about it. I like having it because it's a dual purpose device. It doesn't take up that much space in my shop. Here I am making a box. I've got 4 pieces here. I flipped it twice, and there you go. If you have something to add to this, comment below and let me know what you think.